So I'm about to tell you guys a really big secret. I am pregnant with my ex-husband's baby while I'm in the middle of a divorce from my current husband. But hang tight. The story is so ratchet, you're probably gonna think it's crazy. But hi, I'm Abby. Most of you probably know me as House of Keto on TikTok. But I'm here to tell you guys I've been living two lives, one on another social media platform and one here. And the one that I've been living here, I've tried to make like perfectly curated and only recipes, but I just can't do that anymore because that's not who I am. And I feel like you guys don't really know me. Like you're like, yeah, I'll give this girl a follow because she makes lunch boxes and I agree or I don't agree with how she feeds her kids healthy foods or whatever. But I don't know, over on the other apps, people like know my whole ratchet story. Like the Jerry Springer, well, not the Jerry Springer version. It's more like the Sally Jesse Raphael or like the Ricky Lake version. But I'm here today to tell you guys, I can't keep living two lives, okay? I just want you guys to know who I am, know what I'm about, and you'll either love me or hate me. So if you decide to unfollow me because you're like, girl, I'm only here for your recipes and because you know how to season. Well, yes, thank you. I do know how to season, but you're going to get a whole lot more than that. And one or two things, you're either going to hate me, like literally hate me, but still not be able to look away, or you're going to love me and you're going to want to be best friends. And I'm going to want to be best friends with you too because I don't have any friends. Well, I mean, I do have friends, but like, I like to stay home. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So anyway, yeah, what else about me? So yeah, when I was 7 years old, I met the love of my life. We literally fell in love. I was 7, he was 10. We got married when I was 19 and he was 21. We had our daughter together, Penelope, she's 12. But here's what I did. I cheated on him with my boss. Yeah, I know, I'm like a shit person. I got caught and I was pretty belligerent. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna apologize. Like I was like, I don't think you're treating me the best and you used to break my heart all the time when we were kids and I deserve this, blah, blah, blah. Cut to 10 years later, living a miserable life because I ended up marrying our boss, the man that I cheated on him with. We had a child together and we are literally in the middle of a divorce right now. But I'm pregnant with my first husband's baby. Like, well, he's actually not my first husband, but that's another story for another day. And that other one doesn't really count because I was just a ratchet teenager and I ran away from home and like married this guy that I didn't even know. But that's another story for another day. Y'all are probably like, what the hell? We were here for the recipes, but this girl got some tea. Join me. I'm Abby. Let's keep talking about my ratchet life. So I came to sit down because I'm pregnant and I was getting out of breath standing up. That's a long task, like standing. I don't think anyone ever calculates how long it is, but yeah, I don't want to come off as like, it's not a big deal or I don't care, but I dealt so long. I lived for 10 years, in like shame and embarrassed of what I had done. And I think that was part of the reason that I stayed for so long, because it was embarrassing. Like I didn't tell people how like we had got together. Like I just conveniently left that part out because obviously, you know, doesn't sound good and everybody had so many questions that I didn't want to answer. And honestly, back then I didn't want to take accountability or responsibility for it. It wasn't really until about 3 years ago that I really started to open that up and explore it. And it was only because I started going to therapy, and was able to like talk to a therapist. I went to a Christian therapist actually. Like I spent 2 weeks in Colorado where I went for like 5 hours a day because I was just really struggling with this. And she kind of opened my eyes to the thought and the fact that that God could forgive me for committing adultery, but that also there was life after that. I kind of felt like the marriage that I was living in, like I had to pretend that I was happy, even though I wasn't on the inside, because it was the best that it was going to be. And I didn't really feel like I deserved more than that. So if there's anything I want people to learn from this, it's not that Abby has a ratchet life and she can still make recipe videos. No, I want you to learn that no matter what mistake you make, you can never go so far away that God's like, I never want to deal with you again. Like he's not disgusted by you. He doesn't want nothing to do with you. Like that's who God wants. Like he wants the liars and the thieves and the adulterers and even the murderers. Like that's who God wants. And I came to this realization like, man, wait a second. God actually sent his son to die on the cross for me, for this, to be able to forgive this sin. And not only does he forgive, but he also offers redemption. So just struggling and dealing with that whole thought of forgiveness in general was a big thing for me. And then comes Anthony entering back into my life, and this whole concept of redemption and it being better than it was before. It's just like, whoa, God, this is insane. And again, I'm not a super religious person. I've just experienced some truths that I learned from the Bible in my own life, and I know them to be true. And I know I didn't do it. And it ain't the universe. It's the God who created it. All right, so the rest of the story about how I cheated on my husband. Back in the kitchen because, y'all, I'm pregnant and I'm getting hungry. So we're gonna make a snack. I'm also trying to film this video for Safeway. But because I've been talking to y'all all morning, my phone is dying and ain't doing what it's supposed to be doing. So I'm just making some pepperoni and cheese rolls. Okay, so anyway, the boss, 18 years older than me and Anthony were both working for this boss. And the boss basically like started texting me, like he was texting me on my personal phone while I was at work, like, who's making you smile? You know, things like that. It was like stuff like that. And then it just turned into something that it shouldn't have been. You know, if I wasn't supposed to be texting at work, just come over to my desk and tell me to get off the phone. But I was actually good at my job, answering the phone, you know. So I might be on the phone with my little headset on. You couldn't tell me I wasn't Britney Spears. I'm not that innocent. Yeah, but I would be like probably texting Anthony, like smiling or whatever. And he was like, the boss would text and be like, I'm sorry, I'm eating. I'm talking like y'all here in my kitchen. Who's making you smile? Texting me on my personal cell phone. His office was like right there. He could have just been like, Abby, you need to get off the phone. You stop texting while you're working. But whatever. Yeah. And then the affair started. Yeah. Then Anthony finds out I like left my phone home one day on accident, and then like I had to go back and get it, and Anthony saw it and was crushed. I know. It was a bad day. A really bad day. Really bad day. Really, really bad day. Anthony obviously quit. Anthony quit. Our daughter was like 9 months old when he found out, and it was horrible. I destroyed my whole family. Like I wasn't thinking about my daughter. I wasn't thinking about Anthony. I was just a selfish 19, 20-year-old at this point. Just doing whatever. There's more. You want to hear the rest of this story. But the next 10 years was like, stick around. Give me a follow. Just give it to me, baby. All right, my little snack lunch was good. But back to the story of how I cheated on my husband. I'm not bragging about it. I'm trying to share because I was tired of not telling you guys the truth, and I share so much about this on my other social media platforms. I'm just like, I gotta tell you guys, because I'm so much more than lunch boxes and keto recipes, although I did lose 130 pounds with that lifestyle. But anyway, okay, so watch the previous video if you're like, what is this lady talking about? But anyway, someone was like, oh my God, this is so horrible. As a woman, you shouldn't be telling this story. Do you have any morals? I was 19, y'all. I'm 36 now. Wait, I ain't 36, I'm 33. Trying to age me. I don't like that. Okay, no, Anthony's 36. I'm 33. So this happened back when I was 19. What is that? 14? It started 14 years ago. I mean, God, I don't even know who I was 14 minutes ago. Am I the same person? Who was I 14 days ago? 14 days ago, I was eating shrimp cocktail around the clock. Now when I think about it, I'm just like, ugh, you know? So, ugh. I mean, who were you 14 years ago? I don't know. But anyways, so yeah, Anthony finds out because I leave my phone home. He finds out, and like, we tried. I won't say we tried, because I was still like, I didn't tell like the full truth, but I wasn't like very apologetic. I was kind of like, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, my initial attitude was kind of like, well, I won't say I didn't feel bad for it, but I was like, I got caught. I did not just come clean. Now I am like, sometimes Anthony will be like, why are you telling me this? And I'm just like, I just got to tell you, won't ever want that. Somebody texts me, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's my massage person. I tell Anthony, he's like, you don't need to tell me all this. I'm going to tell you everything. And you tell me to shut up. Don't say no more. But anyways, yeah, so I got caught. I did not confess. Okay. So there is a difference. I did not feel like so morally like corrupt that I just needed to get it off my chest and I needed to apologize. I got caught. So think about the mindset that someone's in when they get caught versus, hey, I've been lying to you. I've been unfaithful and I need to confess. So that's kind of the mind space I was in. So we tried to like kind of work on it, but I was still like not telling the full truth. And then it came to where we kind of agreed that we were just going to get a divorce, Anthony and I. So I was the one that actually filed for divorce, and then like started seeing the boss like more regularly. And he had a really large hand in like my divorce proceedings and all of that. And it was just an odd time, I can't say too much about that because of the legal stuff we're still in the middle of right now. But it's coming. My wretched life. Okay, so let me try to get you guys caught up. All right, so I'm not going to say the boss's name, the boss that I cheated with. I'm not going to say his name, so we're just going to call him unnamed boss, okay? So Anthony and I met each other when we were 7 and 10 in church. I come from a big family of 8 kids. He comes from a big family of 7 kids. We were both homeschooled. Like our church was like weirdly religious, like super weird stuff. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. Lord. Yes, Lord. Okay. That's a whole nother story. But anyways, yeah. So we basically grew up together. Like we were always with each other, hanging out, blah, blah, blah. Anthony was like the cutest boy at the church. Everyone just loved him and thought he was so cute. I was like younger. And when you're 7 and 10, like that's a really big deal, you know, age different wise, because it's like, oh my God, when's your birthday? I'm 2 minutes older than you. I'm in charge, you know, that type of thing. So when we got to be like, you know, 13 and 16, I think it was a little bit awkward because like the other girls that were his age were like, oh, he is cute. You know, I was feeling Anthony back when Anthony didn't even know to feel himself. He still don't even know how fine he is. But whew, can you get pregnant twice at the same time? I don't know, because I would do it. Y'all know I'm ratchet. Anyways, yeah, so like all the girls were feeling him, and you know, I couldn't go to midnight bowl with the lights off and stuff like that when he could. And so, you know, other girls would be there and be like, oh my God, Anthony, you're so cute. You look like Justin Timberlake. And I'd be like, oh my God, no, he doesn't. He don't have noodle hair. Yeah, but whatever. We still loved him anyways. And so I would get my little heart broke and stuff like that. And then, you know, we would go back and forth, like be together, not be together, be together, not be together. But we always knew we was like each other's. And then we decided to get married when I was 19 and he was 21. And like when we got married, we were working for this boss. We were actually both working for him. Plot thicken. Did she just ask some thickener? Yeah. Yeah, he was both of our bosses. So it was kind of screwed up. So like both of our paychecks were on the line. It was just weird. He was 18 years older than me. At the time, I was infatuated. I come from being homeschooled, this like really sheltered background where I wasn't really around other people. So when I'm working at this company with like people, I'm like, oh my God, people, friends. Like I couldn't wait to get to work to like see people and talk to people. And like there was a lunchroom, and like it wasn't a lunchroom like in public school because I was homeschooled, but it was still like a break room. It had a table and 4 chairs, but I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. You know, so I was like obsessed with being there. And then this older guy telling me like I'm awesome and like nobody answers phones as good as you. And I was like, really? You know, I fell for it, y'all. I was stupid. I was so dumb. I was really dumb. Damn, I was dumb. I was so dumb. My ratchet life. Hi to all my new friends and followers. There's been like 70,000 of you that have joined us in like the last 10 hours, which is absolutely crazy insane. But the cool thing is once I get all this out, I don't have to rehash it all over again. You can just find the playlist called New Here and you'll be able to watch these videos. There is still much more to talk about, but I have my kids here. It's the weekend. They are not in school right now. So it's mom time. We just got done doing arts and crafts, cleaning up, and we're getting ready to go downstairs and play Restaurant Kitchen. I love that both of my kids love to play that, but we will get into all of that. We are only at the part of the story where I marry the boss. We haven't even gotten into those 10 years. So there's lots of fun stuff, lots of more drama. You're going to hear about all the horrible things that I did to Anthony, all of the horrible things that I did in my marriage, the horrible person that I was for a couple of years when I joined some fun mommy groups on the internet. You'll hear all about that. So I look forward to sharing that with you guys. And yeah, we'll get back to the story. So get caught up, click the New Here playlist, and you'll be able to see all the videos. You can also check us out on our other social media pages, House of Keto, pretty much everywhere. And the 3 questions I can clear up right now. My son is 6. He will be 7 in a few weeks. My daughter is 13 and she's 12. She'll be 13 in a couple of weeks. And yeah, I think that's it. Love you guys. Back to the story about my ratchet life and how I cheated on my husband, not bragging, but sharing with you guys because I want to be transparent, and I share about it on my other social media platforms. So this is the only one that I don't. And it's really hard to keep an aesthetically curated page over here of just recipes when that's not all that I do. So anyway, go watch the other videos that are like before this, or search my playlist that says New Here, and you'll find all this new content in the whole story. If you watch them in order, it kind of makes sense, but remember, I'm still in the middle of a legal battle right now, so I can't say everything. So yeah, unnamed boss who was 18 years older than me basically helps me navigate through this divorce, and it turns out that I end up with custody of our daughter. And Anthony, I was living in Maryland at the time. Anthony and I both grew up in Virginia Beach, but we were living in Maryland at the time. Anthony decides to move back to Virginia to be back with his family. And we worked out a custody arrangement where he would see Penelope, our daughter, who was like 9 months at the time. He would see her like 1 weekend a month. She would get to go down there to Virginia. She was like, by the time the divorce was over, she was like 1.5. Yeah. And so he did that for a while. And this is the part where I can't really share like a lot of the details, but something happens. Me and unnamed boss are not married yet. We didn't get married until like maybe 3.5 years later, but something happens where, someone else, I can't say who, gets involved with my custody handling situation with Anthony. And basically the sentiment was to keep things transparent on my end, that all communication would go through one portal. However, somehow I didn't see this communication after a certain point. So at one point, I think that Anthony stops requesting to see his daughter, but I will not find out until 10 years later that he was actually still requesting to see her. I just didn't know about it. Again, not saying who, and this is allegedly, but I have seen proof of things that I need to see proof of that make me confident in being able to make the statement that I'm making up until this point. So after Penelope's about 3 years old, Anthony stops exercising his visitation, but continues to pay weekly child support. He has done that for the entire time. So he continued to take care of his daughter. But to what I was believing was he was just not accessing his parental rights. And on Anthony's side, he believed that he was not disturbing a life that our daughter wanted. Back to the story about my ratchet life and how I cheated on my husband, married our boss, and now I'm currently going through a divorce from the boss, and I'm having my second husband's baby. So the story left off where Anthony and I, the guy that I met when I was 7, second husband, childhood sweetheart, are divorced. So throughout our divorce wasn't like, our divorce wasn't nasty, like he's fighting, I'm fighting. Our divorce was like, I was fighting. I was just like, I said a lot of really shitty things about Anthony. I said a lot of things about Anthony that were not true. Mind you now, unnamed boss had a really big hand in how I handled my divorce. 18 years older than me, very influential, very convincing. This is my opinion. Very just like, this is what you need to do, writing things for me rewriting them in my handwriting, things like that. Okay. Throughout the divorce process, I end up like being isolated from my family. My family did not support what I was doing whatsoever. Anthony's family was still here in Virginia, but Ob's did not support it. Literally isolated from all of our friends, my family, like just they didn't support what I was doing. And if they didn't support what I was doing, I had to cut them off. So I didn't really have any support. Literally the only person that I had was unnamed boss. So he was my only sounding board. He was my only place for advice. He was my only place to, if I was going to say, I don't know if I want to do this, or I don't know if I had nobody to say it to. Also, unnamed boss, it is my opinion that the entire last 10 years, or our entire relationship, that everything that I've done has been recorded, whether it be on audio recordings from my car, video recordings, cameras all over our house. If I even wanted to have a conversation where I would call someone and say, hey, I'm not really sure about this, or I think I'm making a mistake, I couldn't. Is my opinion, because of the backlash that I would get from that. And it was just a really weird situation, a very weird dynamic in the relationship. And I think it had a lot to do because of the age, and because I had been so sheltered. I saw this person as like, I almost idolized this person because he had lived this life. Like, he told me stories and has told stories before about how he had been a drug dealer before, he had been shot, he had been stabbed, like all of this crazy stuff that to me was just like the most fascinating thing in the world. I'd never met anyone like that. So I don't know why, but I literally believed everything that he said. I feel like a effing idiot, EFFFFFING, effing idiot. But I did it. So our divorce was, it was rough. It was very rough. And I regret a lot of the things that I said and did. I cheated on my husband with our boss, married him, and now I'm pregnant with my ex-husband's baby and going through a divorce. More of my story. So we ended the story last at where Anthony and I, my second husband, are going through our divorce. One of the parts that I missed is during this time, the company that we work for, the boss actually told the like owner of the company that it was all me and like I was stalking him. So I end up being put on like probation. He gets to keep his job. And then a couple weeks later, they left it up to him to decide whether or not to bring me back, because he claimed that there was never actually an affair. I just made it all up. Okay, which wasn't true, and I was really, really upset about. And he's like, I'm not really sure if I want to bring you back or not. I'm like, what do you mean? And do not ask me why I still wanted to work at this place. But remember, like at this point, my entire identity was wrapped up in this place. I am 22 at this time, maybe 21 at this time. I don't know. I met him when I was 19. But I had married Anthony and had Penelope. And then the affair was found out about because Anthony found my phone one day when I left it home on accident. So I just wanted to go back to this place and keep working there because like all my friends were there, and I felt like this was it. Stupid of me, I know. So we ended up going back there. Cut to a couple months later, we both ended up not working there no more. They eliminated our positions. And then I started working for him. I won't say what he did and what type of business he started, but I basically started working for him. We were getting paid by like other companies. They were writing us checks. But for some reason, all of my money had to be deposited. I just signed my check over to him. So I never actually had cash or like money except for money that I was getting for child support from Anthony. And then at the time we were not living together, I was renting like a basement apartment. He would take the money, pay the rent. Also during this time, Anthony and I had like a little bit of debt. It wasn't crazy. We had like, the rest of the money that we owed our apartment we painted like every single room. And then we owed like money on a credit card. It might've been around $10,000 or $12,000. Unnamed boss, it's my opinion. He convinces me to file for bankruptcy, which puts me in a position where I'll never be able to get anything in my name again for the next 7 to 10 years. The bankruptcy literally just came off of my name, in February, 2 months after I filed for divorce from unnamed boss. So I filed for bankruptcy because I owed this $10,000 or $12,000, give up my car, give up all of my credit cards. Unnamed boss then buys me a car that has a car payment that's $200 cheaper than my actual car payment. I'm sorry, $200 more than my car payment was. So I don't understand why he didn't just help me pay the car payment. Not that he needed to give me money, but I really think my opinion is that it was motivated out of keeping me in a position where I wouldn't have been able to do anything by myself. I couldn't get a car in my name, a credit card in my name, or an apartment or place to live in my name. I cheated on my second husband with our boss, and 10 years later, I'm in the middle of a divorce after marrying him, and now I'm pregnant with my ex-husband's baby. The rest of the story. So, at some point during this time, he asked me to marry him. Some point during that 3 to 4 year, I think it was maybe 3 years after, 2.5 years after Anthony and I actually got divorced, he asked me to marry him. And the whole thing on like how we got engaged was even like weird. It was like one of the times that I tried to leave, and I was like, look, like, you've been taking all my money for like the last year and a half. Like, I want my money back. I want to leave. And it's my opinion that unnamed boss wasn't having it. It was basically like, no, you need to come move in with me. Like, we can save money this way. And basically offered, it was this big fight. It is my opinion that it was a big fight. And we're like sitting in the mall parking lot, and he's like, I don't have all the money to give you back, but I can give you back half of it, or I can go inside and buy you a ring and we can get married. And dumb, stupid me was like, okay, maybe that will solve everything if we're married. But really it just made things worse. So throughout the entire engagement, I probably called the wedding off like 100 times. Like, even the night before the wedding, like, I got emails where I'm like, I'm emailing the wedding planner. I'm not doing this. We literally had no one at our wedding. There was 24 people, or maybe, was it 33 people or 32 people? So there's 29 people and then 32 people, including me, unnamed boss, and my daughter. And most of these people were people that we worked with, but people that we barely knew or that I didn't know. I had one friend there that like I knew like from childhood, because she's like my ride or die, and even if she don't agree with me, she's still going to be there, and I'm so thankful for her. You know who you are. So anyway, yeah, it was just weird. We ended up moving in together. We just dealt with a lot of things. It's my opinion that during that time, unnamed boss kind of played on my anxieties that I had, like with just the world in general, because I hadn't really been in it. And kind of, it's my opinion. And I felt like everyone was out to get me. Like, everyone was trying to kill me. Someone might cut my brakes, like, to the point where I didn't leave the house for a really long time. I didn't leave the house by myself, like, ever, because we did everything together. We were working together. We literally did everything together. Then I get pregnant with my son, and I was sick the entire pregnancy, so I couldn't leave the house. And so we kind of had to separate for the first time. I'm home, he's out running around working, and he would try to bring me around, like riding in the car with him, but I was just way too sick. And even during that time, it's my opinion that all of the phone calls that I had during that time where I was homesick were also recorded. So I didn't really ever have any privacy, no one to say like, hey, I think I might have made a mistake. I cheated on my second husband with our boss, married him, and 10 years later, I'm in the middle of a divorce and pregnant with my ex-husband's baby. The rest of the story. So I'm basically in this position where I have no money. All of my money is I'm signing over my checks, like paid to the order of unnamed boss. He's depositing into his account. The only money that I have is money that I'm getting for child support, which all of that money was going towards daycare. At this point, Anthony is still seeing Penelope. Anthony saw Penelope. I guess we separated around the time she was 9 months. He continued to see her up until she was about 3, maybe a few months older. And we would communicate through this email address. My dog's going crazy back there. I don't even know who's fighting. We communicated through this email address. He would say when he wanted to see her, I would say, okay. And he would see her. And everything was going fine. Then at some point, I just stopped getting emails asking for him to see her. People are like, why didn't you reach out to him or whatever? I kind of had I felt some type of way because I felt like I shouldn't have to beg him to see his daughter. And I personally felt like I thought he just didn't want to see her anymore because it was just getting to be too difficult for him or whatever. And I didn't want to beg him to be in her life. My thing was always like, I'm not going to beg someone to love their kid. Like, you either love her or you don't. Little did I know that he was actually contacting me, actually was under the impression that I was setting up and agreeing to times for him to have custody of Penelope, but I just wasn't showing up. And I did not know this until 10 years later. Literally, I just learned this like 6 months ago, that there were times, and he has witnesses, his family, that would drive up 4 hours from Virginia to Maryland to pick her up, and we just wouldn't be there. But I didn't even know that I was supposed to be there. I'm thinking that he's not contacting her. So we had a lot of drama in the relationship with me and unnamed boss. We did not get married right away, mostly because I wasn't interested in getting married. And there was just, it seemed like our relationship was basically at this point fueled by the drama that we were dealing with. And then once that kind of settled down, after those first 3 years, then the light kind of really shined. The spotlight was on us. I don't know how to say it. Spotlight was basically on us. And it was my opinion that I started to see like a lot of, I guess, I don't even know how to say it, because I'm just trying to tell the things that happen and not necessarily my feelings on the people or the situations. But some things started to happen. I started to realize that it's my opinion that I was under surveillance like 24/7. In my car, phone conversations that I was having would be repeated back to me that no one else was present for except for myself. And it just started to feel like, it's my opinion that I started to feel like I was like being held, if that makes sense. I don't want to use the stronger words, but it's my opinion. That's how I felt. And it was hard. Really, really. We're jumping back into the story. We're at the part where I joined the mommy group and I'm showing my boobs on the internet. It wasn't like just the general internet. It was this mommy group. But there was like 15 or 16,000 people in it. It was absolutely crazy. But at some point, they had this thing called like going real life, like, and people would tell on other people. And at some point, some girl was in there like talking to one of the guys in the group, and someone, I don't know what happened, but somehow her husband found out that she was talking to this guy, and somehow people blamed me. Now, one of the reasons why I would never do something like that is because I know myself, I had been a cheater. So I'm never in the business of exposing cheaters. I think you need to do that yourself, because just because you get exposed doesn't mean you're going to stop. But they thought that I did it. I ended up like leaving the group, and they started harassing me like relentlessly. Like at the time I started working out, I had this page I called Deadlifts and Tire Flips. They changed the whole name of the group for 16,000 people to Deadlifts and Tire Flaps. I was getting about a dozen messages a day, people telling me to unalive myself, just being absolutely ridiculous. Now, mind you, the entire time I'm in this group, people wanted to be my friend because I was funding their birthdays, Halloween, their kids' birthday parties. Like people's houses would burn down, and I would, send them $500 or spend $300 per person on birthdays. And there's 16,000 people in this group. There was like a core group of a couple hundred that kind of participated in they were like the leaders of the group, I guess you could say. But I did make some really great friendships, some friendships that I still have now. And if you are one of those people and you and I still talk, please know that I'm not talking about you. I love you. You are one of the good ones, but we all get mixed up in some stuff that I do really regret. But those people now, literally 6 years later, here's why I think they got mad at me. They got mad at me because I started to lose weight. And I started to feel good about myself. I wasn't posting pictures of my boobs on the internet anymore. And there was this one girl that was just always just very angry with me and didn't like me. And I personally don't like her. She doesn't drink enough water, in my opinion, and doesn't mind her business. She gets in everyone else's business, and she's just a mean, evil, bad person. But this group was absolutely insane. I mean, like, people were dying in this group. One of the ringleaders ends up dying. I won't even talk about what happened with her. God rest her soul. I don't even really know. But she was like the ringleader of the harassment, and then she ends up passing away somehow. It was really bad. But like, there were some really good things that happened. People came together because a lot of people had struggles with like infertility or infant loss or children that were sick, and it gave you the opportunity to be able to help people. And that is contrary to what people might think. One of the things that I like to do, even though I'm a bad, horrible person and I cheated on my husband, I still did like to help people. I've always been that way. But this group, they're just, I don't know. I feel bad for them because they have really low self-esteem, and most of them are very insecure, and they find some relief from the reality that they live by hurting others. And if you're one of those people, I hope you know that you're much better than that, and that you don't have to do that. You can literally change and decide to be someone else whenever you want. I cheated on my second husband with our boss. 10 years later, I'm in the middle of a divorce from the boss that I married and pregnant by my ex-husband. The rest of the story. So basically, we end up getting married. At some point, I end up getting drama kind of subsides, and drama between him and I was really high. I end up getting pregnant with my son, and him and I were kind of separated because I was homesick a lot. After my pregnancy with my son, it's my opinion that my anxieties were kind of played on, and I was really fearful to go outside. Like person sending me like news articles of how people were getting shot at the grocery store or shot at the doctor's office. Like, I didn't even go to mommy and me classes by myself. I would drive there. I would have to wait in my car before I could get out. And not because someone said you can't get out, but because it's my opinion that someone reinforced I'm naturally just like a fearful person. I'm still scared of the dark, still sleep with a nightlight. But like, it's my opinion that someone played on those things like, yeah, you should be scared, instead of being like, girl, come on, you're grown, like get out the house. Okay. So things like that. At this point, I also join a Facebook group online, like this mommy group. I bought this baby wrap and I joined this mommy group because I didn't know how to use it. It was kind of big at the time and I was having trouble like wrapping myself up in it. And I'm just like, dang, I look dumb. I look stupid. I don't even know what I'm doing right now. So I joined this mommy group, and this mommy group, it was not a mommy group. The mommy group was not mommying. It was crazy though, but I learned a lot from that mommy group. That mommy group was wild. I met a few of those people in real life, and the few people that I did meet in real life, the majority of them were absolutely amazing. But I participated in a lot of like, just like they would, someone would post a picture of their kid in a car seat, and they would spend like 3 hours just like attacking these moms, making them feel like shit moms because they didn't raise the thing up to the baby's nipple. And it's like, instead of just saying, hey, did you know you're supposed to do this? And for her to be like, oh yeah, okay, thanks. It was like, let's attack her. Let's beat her down. Let's talk about her teeth. Let's talk about her husband. Let's say she looks cross-eyed. Let's say she looks inbred, like all of this stuff. I got involved in it also in this mommy group. They did these posts where like they would try to make themselves like feel good about themselves. They would like post cleavage, and it turned from cleavage into boobs. And I just want to say, I want to be the first to say, I want you to hear it from me. I participated in it. Your girl, I was like almost 300 pounds. I was showing my boobs in this mommy group. It was one of those things where everybody else was doing it too. It wasn't like I just went in and was like, hey, let me show you my boobs. But like the girls would like post their boobs, and the other girls would be like, oh my God, you're so amazing. And like, it would boost their self-confidence and help them not feel so insecure. There was a couple of guys in there as well. So if your husband's in mommy groups, they ain't mommying. I promise you that. If your wife's in mommy groups, she ain't mommying. I promise you that. Most of that stuff is just drama. You don't want to be involved in it. But a lot of those people are really shit people, like the scum of the earth. They tell people to kill themselves. They harassed me for years, after I left this group. Years. Still to this day. I forgot that part. I'll briefly talk about that. This is the story about how I cheated on my second husband with our boss. And then I married our boss, and now I'm in the middle of a divorce from our boss and pregnant with my second husband's baby. I breezed over the first husband thing briefly in the original video, so click the playlist new here so that you can go back to see that I did actually talk about it. People are like, oh my God, you're lying. I'm not lying, y'all. I'm literally here telling my whole truth. I've shown y'all everything but my booty hole, okay? At this point, so first husband, I was 17, 18. Like, I don't think I was necessarily a rebellious kid, but homeschooled at 15 years old. I graduated from high school at 16. We moved from Virginia to Maryland because like my sister was going to get married to this guy when she was 16, and they ended up calling off the engagement. So my parents had to sell our house. We moved back to Maryland, where my parents are both from. And I meet this guy who was a friend of this guy my sister was dating on a blind date. This was like my first time being able to like go out and like do stuff. And I met this guy on a blind date. My parents like did not want me to have anything to do with him, because like the first time he came over to our house, he was like looking at porn on my dad's computer. And my parents were like, absolutely not. And I was like, you're not going to tell me what to do. And so I go on this struggle with them for like this whole year of like secretly talking to this guy behind their back, and like they're telling me like, we're gonna kick you out the house if you don't stop talking to him, all this stuff. And I'm just like, I'm gonna keep talking to him. Cut to, I end up running away from home. I married this guy so I don't have to go back home. Technically in the state of Maryland, I wasn't even old enough to get married because you have to be pregnant in order to get married. But luckily he had some ratchet sisters also. And they always had friends that were pregnant and went into a patient first and took a pregnancy test as me so that we could go apply for a marriage license. We get married. The agreement was we would only stay married until I was 18. And then after that, sayonara, that marriage was over. I have not spoken to that man. I don't even know what that man is doing. God bless his heart, his soul, and his whole entire family. But yeah, so the reason for the divorce on that end, I found out some information that I cannot and will not talk about, but I absolutely could not stay. Called my parents and was like, I am an effing dummy. Come pick me up. They came to pick me up. Anthony was there and was like, yeah, you are effing dummy. Let's try to like make this work and finally get back together. And Anthony and I are together for like a couple of months. And I think, I'm sorry. That was before I ran away. Anthony came back around and we like tried to make it work. And then I was like, no, he broke my heart. He was supposed to go back home to like get his stuff. And then like, he didn't come back. He like started talking to some girl and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just go marry this guy. So then when I finally did divorce first husband one, Anthony literally, my parents come to pick me up. I had my guitar and like my bag of clothes and Anthony was in the car. And that's how we literally transitioned into, him and I getting married, me having to find a new job, and where I meet unnamed boss. More to come, but today's a really busy day. I'm about to do hair and makeup because we're filming our gender reveal today, which will air like in a week and a half. So see you soon. I cheated on my second husband with our boss. I married him, and 10 years later, I'm in the middle of a divorce, pregnant with my ex-husband's baby. The rest of the story. So here we are where I have my breast disease called idiopathic granuloma mastitis, and it's just starting to put things in perspective. I'm starting to go to therapy and starting to just be like, what the hell have I done? At that point, it really drew me closer to God in my faith because I felt like I was getting ready to die. And I think everyone, when they think they're getting ready to die, is like, all right, even if you don't believe there's a God, you're like, maybe if there is one, I should just check in, like just in case. Like, what's up? I knew there was a God, and I think my faith really got me through that time because I was really, really sick. Was slated to have both of my breasts removed. I was slated to do a round of chemo, even though it wasn't cancer. It's just this rare disease, and it's how they treat it. And I just started getting really nervous. My daughter was getting really nervous, and I started to think, like, she doesn't even know her dad. Like, I'm going to die, and I'm not going to be able to introduce her to her dad. So I started talking about him, talking about how funny and how amazing he is, and how he reminded me so much of my dad. And my daughter had met my dad at that point, and she just absolutely loved him. I reconciled with my dad, like right around the time that I got sick, and she just absolutely loved my dad. And I'm like, Anthony reminds me so much of my dad. And so she kind of seemed open to it. And she's like, maybe I want to see him for my birthday. This is when she was getting ready to turn, I think, 11. And she asked me, like, does he ask to see me? And I lied to her. I said, yeah, he does, because I didn't want her to know that he hadn't asked. And she's like, well, I said, well, I haven't said anything to you because I had been asking you and you said you didn't want to see him. And she's like, well, I think I want to see him. She wanted to know two things. She wanted to know if he was married and if he had a daughter. She didn't care if he had a son, but she wanted to know if he was married and if he had a daughter. And so I was like, I don't know, but I'll try to find out. So I reached out to one of his siblings, his brother's baby mama. I reached out to her and tried to see what I could find out. And I don't remember if she responded or not, but somehow I found out that he wasn't married and that he had a child, but it was not a daughter. So I was like, okay. So I tell Penelope this, but in the meantime, I had spoken to someone like through counseling, and they were like, hey, you shouldn't have lied to her. You need to tell her the truth. So I had to go back to her and say, hey, mom lied. I told you that your dad had been asking to see you, but that's not true. And the reason I lied to you was because I wanted to protect you, and I didn't want you to feel like he didn't love you. But I don't know if he wants to see you, but I can't imagine he would not want to see you. And she said, well, does he have a daughter? And I said, no, he doesn't have a daughter, but he has a son. She said, is he married? And I said, it doesn't look like it. And she's like, okay, well, let me think about it. A few weeks later, she decides that she doesn't want to see him. She just wants to wait. But I knew that the idea was in her head, and she kind of knew, I guess, what she felt like she needed to know at that point. I can't remember I said how old she was going to be. I think she was getting ready to turn 11. It was like a week or so before her birthday. And I was like, hey, if you want to see him, like, we can see him as a family. We can all go to lunch. We can all go to a park. We can all do something so that you feel comfortable and you feel safe. The story. So we just ended the part where I'm in the mommy group showing my boobs on the internet. I ended up getting out of that group. And shortly, this part is important because shortly after I got out of that group, well, actually, while I was in that group and I was like showing my boobs, I remember it was horrible because someone would like share your pictures around like somewhere else. Someone shared my picture in this other group, and this boy made this comment that I looked like my breasts looked like tumors. At the time, I was like a 56G. And I mean, he wasn't wrong. But I don't know. Now, I mean, I feel like now I have more of something to show than I did back then, but for some reason I had all the confidence in the world back then. Well, I really didn't. It was like that fake confidence where like you just get people to boost you up and make you feel good about yourself, but you really don't feel good about yourself. But anyway, I end up, right after I leave the group, like within a few months, I end up getting diagnosed with this very rare breast disease called idiopathic granuloma mastitis. If you've never heard of it, you can check out my YouTube. I have a video called My Journey with Breast Disease to kind of explain to you guys what happened. But while I'm in the middle of this breast disease is really when I start thinking about my life. It's also when I get in therapy, like weekly therapy, because it was just really hard. I was kind of in this position where me and unnamed boss had been fighting for a really long time. I had been asking him for a divorce. Like I was starting to feel better about myself. I started to lose weight. Like I started to get my confidence. I started to like leave the house. I wasn't feeling like everyone was going to kill me anymore. And it started to ruffle the feathers in our relationship. Like it was my opinion that he didn't want me to go to these places. He, in my opinion, tried to make me feel bad for going to these places, and kind of like if I went to these places, it was like I owed him something when I came home, and I didn't like that feeling. Like, and everyone has experienced that feeling before. Like, yeah, you can go, but when you come back, you owe me. And I didn't like feeling that way. I didn't like that pressure. And so I started asking for a divorce. I'd been asking for a divorce for of the 10 years we were together, probably 6, I probably asked the whole time. But then the last 4 years, I got like really aggressive in asking for a divorce, and he just kept saying no. Like he didn't want to. And then he got to the point where it was like not biblical and just all this stuff. And it just didn't really make much sense to me. But I get diagnosed with this rare breast disease. I'm really sick. And at this point, it's like, can I really get a divorce right now? I needed him because I needed someone to help take care of me. I couldn't lift my arm. I talk all about my disease and how it happened. And it was like my flesh was literally ripping open on my breast. So just because it's not breast cancer does not mean you don't have something. So please go get it checked. If you're having burning, tingling, a warm sensation, or you feel any type of lump or mass in your breast, please go and get it checked. But I started thinking, geez, like what if I die? My daughter doesn't even know her father. So I started to try to talk to Penelope a little bit about her dad, and she did not really seem like she was open to it, but I still tried to broach that subject with her more and more. Mind you, we still had not heard from Anthony at all during this time, or so I thought. But we hadn't heard from, in my opinion, we hadn't heard from him at all because I didn't see any of the communication. Here is the rest of the story. So I come home from therapy, and I'm basically at this point, I'm feeling like this new person. Like I'm struggling with this new dichotomy of like, I feel powerful, but I also felt super weak. Like I felt like I'm finally ready to like be a person, like make my own choices, make my own decisions, have my own thoughts. Like I felt so confident in myself. And it wasn't because of like the work that I had done with my body or with my weight loss. It was like this work that I had done within. Like I felt like I had forgiven myself for what I had done. Now this one, I wasn't ready to go around and make amends with everyone. That part would come a little bit later, but I was just like, I'm ready to do this. And I wanted a divorce, and unnamed boss was not having it. Like absolutely not. Unnamed boss had become super religious and not like regular Christian or like regular religious, but like this weird, in my opinion, this like weird take on like, I am the only chosen of God, and like nobody else is chosen of God. You're not a chosen of God. Like nobody else gets to go to heaven except for these 144 people. And if you're not one of the 144 people, you're like a waste of space, time, and God's love. And like God is just this mean person. And that really bothered me because I'm like, I just found like this forgiveness from God where I saw God as this compassionate person that could forgive me, could give me grace for committing adultery, and not just forgive me, but still welcome me back in. And now here is, in my opinion, unnamed boss basically telling me, no, God hates you because you're not one of the chosen. And I just had a really hard time with that. I literally started going buck wild. I'm like, I'm going to do whatever I want to try to push the situation so that I could get a divorce, y'all. I literally signed up for dating apps on this man's credit card. Put it on the credit card. All the apps, just signed up for every single one of them on his credit card, literally on his credit card. And I told him I was going to do it, and I did it. Just started being buck wild. And still this man would not divorce me. Finally, listen, it's my opinion. I was encouraged to not be the one to get the mail. Someone else always got the mail. I hate touching mail, so I didn't really mind, but someone else always got the mail. Except for this one day. This one day in October of 2021, I get the mail, and there is a letter in the mail from the county child support office. Now, remember, Anthony paid child support this entire time, every single solitary week. I get this letter from child support. I open it. I'm home alone. I open it, and it says that they needed to confirm Anthony's address. And I'm like, I checked my bank account. I was still getting a child support payment. So I was really like, I don't really care if y'all know where he lives. But I kept the letter, and about 2 days later, I cheated on my second husband with our boss. I married him, and 10 years later, I'm in the middle of a divorce and pregnant with my ex-husband's baby. Hi, y'all. I'm Abby. Here is the rest of my story. Sorry to keep you guys waiting for so long, but it's a lot to remember, and I'm trying to make sure that I get it all right. I'm also pregnant and Todd, like not tired, like Todd. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Anyway, so we're at the point where Penelope had been asking about Anthony and then decides that she does not want to see him. We kind of leave the situation alone. At this point, I get into remission with my disease through a series of surgeries. I did a couple long water fasts where we basically starved these tumors and masses, and I was able to heal my body naturally. And so then I get to the point again where I'm going through this, I'm doing like weekly therapy, and through therapy, I really recognize, that number one, I effed up like major, with what I did with Anthony. Like it was wrong. Prior to that, I didn't really feel like, I'll just be honest. I felt kind of belligerent in what I did, and felt like, not that, I'll be honest, I kind of felt like you deserve it because of how I felt like he had wronged me. Super immature of me, super arrogant, super prideful of me. But I'm just being honest with you guys. That's how I felt. And it was through therapy where my therapist was kind of like, what is wrong with you? Like, who are you? Like, is this really who you want to be? And just kind of talk me through it. And I realized that I really did mess up. I committed adultery. I was wrong. Regardless of what Anthony did when we were kids, we were not married. And it's not the same thing as when I had made a marriage vow and commitment, and it wasn't on the same level. Like he's shooting paintballs and I'm shooting like these huge missiles. And that's my personality sometimes. Like, you go hard, I'm gonna kill you. Like, I have no chill. I have 2 levels, off and on. And I decided it was on, and I really hurt him. But therapy really allowed me to see that, like, God could forgive me for what I did, that I could forgive myself. And also that Anthony wasn't this person that I thought he was. Throughout this entire 10 years, I continued to have these dreams about Anthony where he was always like this knight in shining armor in my dream. He was like always the prince. It was like I had these beautiful dreams and I could never see the guy's face. And at the end of the dream, the guy would turn around and it was Anthony. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, I could not shake this man. And so really, I come home from therapy and I'm just like at this point where I felt like it was my first time like going away somewhere by myself. I felt so powerful. Like, I'm in Colorado in the middle of nowhere. There's like nothing for me to be afraid of, but I just felt so powerful. And I came back and literally was just like, I'm just destroying my whole life. I'm just going to blow it all up. I told unnamed boss, like, I want a divorce. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. And he was not having it on any level. The rest of the story. So we left off where I get this letter in the mail from the child support office. And mind you, I was never the one that got the mail, but for some reason this day I just so happened to get the mail. Letter from child support saying they needed to confirm Anthony's address. And I'm like, I checked my bank account. I'm still getting the payment. So I'm like, this don't really concern me. But I held on to the letter because I didn't know what to do with it. And I'm not like, I don't want to creep y'all out and be like, I felt like God spoke to me, but I felt this strong sense that I was supposed to contact him. Mind you, I haven't spoken to this man at this point in 10 years. I go on Facebook, I unblock him, I take a picture of the letter, and not through email, the way that I was supposed to communicate with him, and that he was supposed to communicate with me, but on Facebook Messenger, send him a picture of this letter. Say, I'm not really sure what this is about. I'm still getting payments, so maybe you can contact them and handle it. I also did not want to sit on hold for 3 hours with the county child support office because that is just a pain in the butt. And he responded. Within I think it was 7 minutes, he responded. And this was, God, I can't remember the day, but it was in October. Our daughter had her first dance 3 days later. He responds and he's like, I'll contact them. And I was like, okay, thank you so much for contacting them. And he was like, thank you so much for letting me know to contact them. And I was like, thank you so much for letting me know right away that you were going to contact them. And he's like, thank you so much for letting me know right away that you appreciate me letting you know right away that I was going to contact them. We do this back and forth for 20 minutes, appreciating each other for sending the letter and telling the other person we were going to call. Then he's just like, how's our daughter? And that just opens the floodgates. I start sending pictures, talking about her, blah, blah, blah. Cut to, she ends up on a phone call with him. We schedule a phone call for her to talk to him for the first time, the next day. I did not tell unnamed boss. Obviously, as I said, it was my opinion that everything that I did in this house, my car, or anywhere for this period of my life was recorded. So I knew he was going to find out and he was going to know, but I wasn't going specifically and telling him. But I did call my mom and tell her. And of course, she was elated. So the next day at 3 o'clock, I take Penelope to go get her dress fitted for her first dance. We're sitting in the car. She's like, Mom, I want you to be there with me. So we called on speakerphone, and literally from the moment they got on the phone, it was the absolute sweetest thing. She's crying. I'm crying. He's crying. And it was I always told Penelope that whenever she wanted to see her dad, I would support it 100%. Whatever that looked like, however she wanted me to be there for her. If that meant I went with her until she felt comfortable, he came to our house, all of these things. Now I said all these things not knowing that I was actually going to have to do them. I just wanted her to know that she was comfortable and that I wasn't keeping her back. And so literally within minutes, the two of them reconnected as though no time had ever passed. It was magical. If you've stuck around for the story this long, thank you so much. If you're still wondering what's going on, go to my page and check out the playlist. New here, all the videos will be in order so that you can watch and keep up and try to stay involved in this crazy ratchet drama. some of y'all might be annoyed by the way I tell stories, but this is just how I talk. This is how I talk to you if you were here in person. So I don't want to just say this or that, because then someone will be like, oh, she lied because she missed this part. Obviously, I'm not telling y'all all my business, because this story does involve other people, not just myself. And I'm sharing what I have permission to share, what I've discussed with Anthony and what he feels comfortable with me sharing. If he says he doesn't feel comfortable with me sharing it, I'm not going to share it with you guys. So if you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that thinks they know me, and they're like, oh, well, this person told me this, that, or the third. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But one thing about me is I don't clear up rumors. So if you hear it and you want to believe it, go for it. I don't care. Anyways, all right. So Penelope and Anthony start speaking. It's like so sweet. He like helps her get ready for her dance via FaceTime. At this time, a couple people have asked, like, was Anthony married or whatever? Anthony never remarried. All of his girlfriends and people that, he hooked up with or whatever knew that he was in love with me, knew that he was never going to marry them. They would go cry to his mom, like, why won't he marry me? And they're like, he's never going to marry you. Like, he told you that from the beginning. You knew that. The girlfriend that he had at the time, when him and I started talking again, actually, like, they got together over talking about me. Like, he's at a bar crying about me. And she knew all about me. So she got really upset when she heard that Penelope was like back in his life, and started making some comments like about, well, don't spend any money on her. Don't do this or don't do that. And would start cussing and screaming at him, like, while he was on the phone FaceTiming Penelope. And I was like, yo, when I dropped Penelope off at school one day, she would talk to her dad, like, all the way on the way to school. This is like day 2 of them talking. And I was like, hey, you and I need to have a conversation once we drop Penny off. Like, I don't want to have the conversation in front of her. So we drop her off, him and I start talking, and I'm just like, hey, I don't know what's going on with your girl. But here's a couple of things on my end. I'm going to keep everyone on my end out of it. It's just going to be between you and Penelope. And I expect for you to do the same. So basically, get your girl, because I don't want my daughter hearing her cussing and screaming and yelling at you for talking to her. It was just not necessary. I even tried to reach out to the girl and just say, hey, like, let's give Anthony and Penelope space to rebuild their bond and rebuild their relationship without us interfering. I think that would just be best. And of course, she got snappy and popped off. So I put her in her place. And I told her if she didn't stay in her place, she wouldn't have one, because I already knew what was going to happen. Little did I know, she was really freaking out, because she knew how much Anthony was still in love with me, and she knew she was getting ready to lose her spot. Well, cut to Anthony and I start talking more. Like the next day we talked for like maybe 3 hours, and it was crazy because when I first started talking, I told him like, hey, what happened. I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to say sorry. But I am sorry that so much time has gone. Thank you so much if you stuck through for this story this long, but it is a lot. And I warned you guys from the beginning. But anyway, so we're at the point where Penelope and Anthony have reconnected, and Anthony's girlfriend that he had at the time, like, starts to get involved and is like nitpicking at Anthony. Now, what I did not tell you guys is that, this is something that I did not know, but throughout this entire time, after Anthony and I separated, Anthony was a plumber. He was a plumber when we were teenagers. He worked for this one company. After we separated, he moved back to Virginia, continued to work, like started working for this company again, worked for 3 years straight, never took a day off, saved up all of his money, and ends up buying a partnership in this company. A few years after that, he ends up buying out the owner and now owns this company outright. I had no idea when Anthony and I started talking again that he was an owner of a company, that he made good money, and that he did all this stuff. When him and I were together, we lived paycheck to paycheck. I was completely fine with that. I was completely satisfied. We love shopping at Costco. I love buying my clothes from Costco and Walmart. Like, I've never been someone who needed these crazy expensive things. But even when Anthony came back around and he was like telling me like all the stuff that he did and all these properties that he owned, and like, just, I think it was like, I think he wanted me to see that he had really done well for himself. I really had nothing to show for my life, except for a mess of how I've heaping shit. But I was like, I heard him, but I kind of didn't believe him. Like, I didn't believe that he really owned this company until like we came down here to visit, and I saw him sign payroll checks for like the 3rd time, because I thought maybe the first time he was just faking it. But like, the man does very well for himself. But that was obviously, I didn't know any of that when him and I started talking again, when Penelope started talking again. To this day, I've never seen his bank account. I don't know. But he does well, and he takes care of our daughter, and that's really all that matters. But him and Penelope start talking. We agree to find a time for them to reconnect. We had a lot going on. He was going on a hunting trip. We were going to go see my parents in California. So they end up not seeing each other again until the beginning of December, like maybe 3 weeks after they start talking. But they're talking on the phone every single day. At some point, about a week into Anthony and I talking, I got on the phone with him. And like I said, I told you guys, I said I was never going to apologize to him, because I felt like he never apologized to me for all the stuff he did. This is how like stubborn I was, and like how I was still a piece of shit. And then literally, it was like one night I just started crying, and I had this overwhelming sense of guilt and shame and embarrassment for everything that I had done. It was like it all hit me at one time. And I'll never forget, I called Anthony and I just started sobbing, and I was like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, when I told him I wasn't going to apologize to him, he's like, I don't need an apology. Like, this isn't about that. Like, we could be friends. Like, tell me how crazy you are now. Like, he's always known I've been wild, and he kind of joked about it or whatever. And he's like, I don't need an apology from you. I've moved on. I forgave you. And I was like, okay, I didn't ask for your forgiveness, but whatever. Like, that's kind of the attitude that I had. And then, y'all, if you've stuck around for the story this long, thank you so much. I feel like we've come to an end. I know you guys have tons and tons of questions, so I'll try to make follow-up videos for anything that you guys need clarity on. Someone asked for stick figures and all that stuff. I don't know how to do all that. Only thing I know how to do is turn this eyelash filter on and hit 3 minutes and hit the record button. That's all I know how to do. I don't know how to do stick figures. I don't know how to put pictures behind me and all that stuff. I used to know how to do it, but the platforms have changed so much. I don't know how to do it anymore. But thank you guys for listening to my story. I know you guys have so many questions, and obviously it's been 10 years, so I haven't said absolutely everything. I missed some things, but I feel like I've said the necessary parts. People probably think I've said some unnecessary parts. But if you guys have questions, I'll try to answer them. But Anthony and I, we are together. We are expecting a baby. I am still legally married. We did plan this baby. We also lost a baby back in March. And then this baby came so quickly after. We're so excited about that. But the cool thing here is that I feel like we get a second chance, and we don't take each other for granted. Like, people are like, oh, he's probably going to cheat on you. I forgave a lot that Anthony did. Anthony did a lot when we were kids. Anthony was ratchet when we were kids, like really ratchet. And I forgave a lot. Anthony's forgiven a lot. And I think when you have two people that are in that situation where they feel like they both have lost, I feel like when you come back together, there's such an appreciation and gratitude for having another chance and a second opportunity. Anthony and I just want our family. That's it. And, we were a young couple. I destroyed our family. I didn't think anything about anyone else. I was only thinking about myself. I was extremely selfish, had extremely poor judgment, made extremely poor decisions, made horrible decisions, horrible mistakes that I was belligerent and almost arrogant in. And now looking back on them, I wish a lot of those things that I didn't make, but I know that everything happens for a reason. And I'm not saying you cheated for a reason or whatever, but we don't look back on the situation being like, man, I wish we could change this, because if one thing changed, we might not be where we are today. So we're just grateful for the time that we have together now, and we try to move forward with as little stress as possible. And that's why we're so excited to be having this baby. It really just brought us some hope, and it's something that we decided to do. We are really, really, really great co-parents together. Anthony and I are like two 12-year-olds. We have the most amazing time together. We just have fun. And I feel really happy. I feel really great. And I love Anthony so much because he doesn't let me walk around in shame every day, like with my head, hung low, like, oh, I really messed up. Like, he has given me grace. He's covered me in grace, and we're walking in that. Obviously, he's being wise. I'm doing everything that I can to make myself trustworthy. Like, if you text me, Anthony sees it. I don't care who you are. If you tell me I look good in a dress, he knows. You guys, we're almost at the end of the story. Okay, so we're at the part where I call Anthony after, this is maybe day 3 or 4 of us talking. And I told him, like, I just called him sobbing and just telling him, like, how sorry I was, like, repenting to him, asking for his forgiveness, like, all stuff that I literally said that I would never do. Because I felt like in some way I was apologizing for my son or whatever. And I really felt like, and again, I'm not a super spiritual person. And when I say that, some Christians have sent me messages like, what do you mean by that? Do you not believe in God? When I say I'm not a super spiritual person, I'm not one of those people that judges. I understand that God, Jesus, hung out with the sinners. And I'm one of those people. I am a sinner, saved by grace, wrecked by grace, and wrecked by God's love. I need his forgiveness more than anyone else. Like, if I was the only person here, I'm ratchet enough for him to have to die on the cross just for me. Okay. But I really felt like that was something that God settled in my spirit, that, me saying that I'm sorry and recognizing and acknowledging the level of hurt and pain that I put this person through did not negate the fact that I still had something beautiful and this special gift, my son, that came out of this heaping pile of mess. And so I think that was what was really holding me back from being like, I wasn't going to apologize because I love my son so much, but I can still apologize for how I got there and how I hurt people in that process. And so I just called Anthony and I just apologized to him. Like, my heart, it was like all at once, I felt the weight of everything that I had done to him in like that moment. And I just felt compelled to say sorry. I felt compelled to ask for his forgiveness, to repent to him and say, like, I can't even imagine the level of hurt and pain that I put you through. But I know that I did. And I don't think my words will ever be enough to make up for the pain that I caused. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. And I recognize that this isn't about us getting back together. Like, we weren't even talking about that. But I was like, I just need you to know that I'm sorry. I know that I hurt you and that I'm sorry. There's no excuse for what I did. Just because you weren't doing what I thought you should have been doing was never a reason for me to go and do what I did. You and I had marriage vows. I broke those. I hurt you. I was dishonest. I lied. Literally just went on this, like, for 20 minutes, just going on and on and on about how I recognize the horrible thing that I had done. And I heard someone be like, oh my God, she's a liar. Have you ever met an honest cheater? Like, have you ever met an honest cheater? You can't be honest and cheating at the same time. You're not calling someone up like, it's getting ready to go in, I just want to let you know. No, like, if you're lying, if you're cheating, you are lying. Like, you never met an honest thief. The whole premise is there's a level of dishonesty, deceit, and then you commit your sin or your crime or whatever it is. So Anthony and I kind of reconcile from there. We take things slow. Just in being really good friends and being really good. We're at the point of the story, and thank you guys so much if you're still here. I promise we're going to be done soon. And I'm trying not to drag it out. I just want to make sure that I don't miss anything, because a lot of you guys have asked about how we reconciled. So I just shared the part about how we reconciled. If you missed that video, just hit the playlist new here and you'll be able to watch all the videos in order. But we reconciled. We ended up coming to see Anthony. I think it was like the second week of December. Penelope wanted me to come with her. He got us a hotel and we planned on staying in the hotel. We ended up not staying in the hotel. She wanted to stay here with her dad. He had a room for her like the entire time, and got it, painted for her and designed it the way she wanted it. She sent him like all these videos from TikTok of the stuff that she wanted. And he literally made this little girl's dream come true, like made her the exact room that she wanted. And it was just so sweet to see how they reconnected. And when you see them together, you would never know that it had been 10 years since they had seen each other. And I really credit that to the faithfulness of God. I'm not trying to preach to you guys, but only God can do something like that. As the keeper of time, like, he holds all time in his hand. And for him, 10 years is like a second. And so I felt like God just really protected that and really made it so that they still had this awesome relationship that they still have to this day. That was the second week of December. By the fourth week of December, like 2 days after Christmas, I filed for divorce. Because I'm still in the middle of my divorce, I can't necessarily talk about all of those details. But once that is done, and I will. And now we are in the process of, Anthony has been an incredible support, not only to me, to my daughter, to my son, but just helping us. I had absolutely no money saved up. I had nowhere to go. My car gets stolen by unnamed boss on the day of my son's kindergarten graduation. He took it's been a crazy ride. So much drama. Karma is whooping my tail. Oh, she's whooping my tail. Like, I want to call protective services on her. It's so bad. It's so brutal. But geez, I feel like part of me is like, I deserve it. I did a lot of really shitty things. So I'm just grateful to, number one, to still be alive. I'm grateful, number two, that I still get to see my son. And I'm fighting now to be able to see him more than I do, and to get it worked out where it's fair in court is what we're going through right now, where it's documented on paper and it's fair. And just to be able to be here for my daughter. Anthony and I are together. We are in a relationship, and it's something that we work on daily, where I make myself as trustworthy as possible. He never asked me to do anything, but I feel like because I'm the one that wronged him so egregiously, it is my responsibility to rebuild that trust actively. I've seen this question a lot, so I will go ahead and answer it. But our families both love the other person. So my family absolutely loves Anthony. Anthony's family absolutely loves me. If you remember, we grew up together. He comes from a family of 7 kids. I come from a family of 8 kids. We were in the same church together. We were all homeschooled together. So we were kind of raised together, all very close, like sisters, best friends. Each person, like each kid in my family has a kid in Anthony's family that's like their bestie. So our families love each other. My family has stayed in contact with Anthony the entire time. Anthony's family stayed in contact with my family the entire time. I was the only one that was kind of like on the outs, and they didn't put me on the outs. I put myself on the outs when I decided to cheat on Anthony, and of course, nobody agreed with that. I will say right now, our families are very supportive of us. Obviously, we live here in Virginia Beach, where Anthony's family lives, and all of my family lives in California. To not say too much, because it's not, again, I don't like telling other people's business. I will tell all of mine. But some of my siblings were very, very, very upset with me because of how I treated Anthony, rightfully so. And I am still working on regaining and rebuilding those relationships by doing the only thing I know how to do, apologizing over and over and over again and asking for their forgiveness. And some of them were not exactly happy with the fact that Anthony just took me back so willingly. But the part that everybody knows is that Anthony and I love each other. Literally, no matter what, we love each other. And I think they expected him to, build this amazing company and be making all of this money and come back in and take me to court and kind of just destroy me like I did to him. And I can see how most people would expect that or want him to do that, but that just wasn't his heart towards me. And I'm so grateful and thankful for that. That he didn't do that. He would have had every right to do it, and I would have deserved it. But I'm just grateful that, I don't know, it just reminds me a lot of God's love. Like, we don't deserve it. If we got what we deserve, none of us would be here. And I'm so grateful that Anthony loves me in that way. And I know our families support us being together. It's not that they don't support us being together. They just think that Anthony's been, way too nice. And I agree. Anthony has been way too nice. I do not deserve the kindness and the love that he has shown me. I do not deserve it. But I don't think any of us deserve the forgiveness that God gives us, but he still gives it. So I'm really grateful that Anthony has done that. And we both love our families endlessly. As you know, coming from big families, we can be really close. But with my family living all the way in California, it makes it hard. So we are going to be going to go visit them soon and hopefully get another chance to work on things and rectify things. But I talk to my parents every single day. My dad and Anthony text constantly. His whole family was just at our house this weekend for our private gender reveal. So yeah, we love them. So I mentioned this in one of my other videos, but the way that, maybe I didn't go into detail, but the way that I found out, Anthony actually didn't bring it up initially, but like when we would talk, we would just talk about it, and I would say, it was like 10 years since you've seen her, since you asked to see her. And then one day, a couple months ago, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, he was like, can I just stop you for a second? Can we like talk about the elephant in the room? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, what about, all the times like that I asked to see her and you never responded, and the times that I showed up and you never showed up? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Every time I was supposed to be there, I was there. Like it turned into like an argument, because I'm like, what are you talking about? Like he had mentioned saying something before, like the times I would show up and you wouldn't be there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I was always there. Well, I was like, basically it was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't believe you. He pulled out his phone and he showed me the emails, 10 years worth. And I saw them. And they were addressed to the place that I told him to send them to. However, I had never seen them. So, of course, I felt like an idiot. I apologized. And though I don't know what happened to them, I obviously have my opinion. However, I still feel like I was responsible for finding out or verifying or whatever. And I felt like I owed him an apology, because ultimately it was my fault. I got something on my dress. Obviously, it was my fault. But he communicated the way that I asked him to communicate. He used the email address that I asked him to use. That was a joint email address. But it's my opinion that something happened to those emails and they never made it to me. I never saw them. I never saw them on the received end, but I did see the sent end. I also have family members that saw those emails as well in real time as they were happening, because they didn't even believe that he was actually trying to see her. So that's how it happened. Calvin. Hi. So what's so funny to me is that the majority of the like negative comments, and there haven't been a lot, the majority of everything has been great. And I've been sharing my life on social media for 5 years. And one thing about me is I never come on social media looking for anyone to agree with a decision or a choice that I've made for my life. I do not come here for consensus. I come here after I've made a decision, while I'm making a decision, and just talk about it. But I don't come on social media and say, hey, do you guys think I should do this? Do you think I'm a bad person? Yes or no? I knew that I was a bad person when I did the things that I did. I knew that I was a bad person when I decided to come on here and tell the story that I was telling, the story of when I was a bad person. What's crazy to me, though, is that the majority of the people that have an issue with this are men. All right. And men are notoriously known for being dogs, like dogs, like serious dogs. But what I find funny and really, really interesting is that a lot of these men are like, oh my God, I would never get with you. Baby, I would never get with you either. So you don't have to worry. Then you can mark yourself safe from me and my shenanigans. You don't have to worry about me. Who's going to stand beside me? My baby daddy. He's standing beside me right now, and he has helped me through the last 9 months. But I also want to say this. What I've learned from sharing this situation is that I believe that there are actually more female cheaters than there are male cheaters. And here's why I believe this. I believe women are more capable of just being good at anything that we decide to do. One of the reasons I think that females are better at cheating than men are is because we are actually capable of multitasking. We have the ability with our just incredible brains of being able to multitask, and not just multitask, but do it well, to juggle multiple balls and not drop them. Men cannot do that. They can barely deal with the one ball they got or the two that they claim to have. So they usually get caught or they get found out. But I believe that a lot more women cheat. And from all of my messages, my DMs on TikTok and on Instagram, I've had so many women that have reached out to me like, I'm so glad that you shared this. This is putting me in a situation where I feel like I might need to get some things off my chest. Here's the thing, man, maybe you don't know that your woman has cheated on you, because a woman, she'll cheat for 15 years. She'll have a whole nother life for 15 years, and she'll stop, and you will never even know about it. That's how good women are. So don't let it fool you just because you think your girl has not cheated on you. And I'm not saying every girl's a cheater. I'm just saying they're capable of it. We are emotional creatures, emotional beings, and there are lots of men out here that know how to play on that, know how to tell us we look cute, I would always let you go to Target, girl. You can get whatever you want in your cart. You don't got to ask, you don't got to check. Just do whatever you want. There's always a man out there telling you some crap like that. But to the men who said, oh my God, I would never take you back, don't worry, baby, because I would never leave, okay? Because I would never be there in the first place. So please, mark yourself safe from my shenanigans. You do not have to worry about me. So the girlfriend that Anthony had when they started talking again, when Penelope and Anthony started talking again, that girlfriend, he broke up with her, and she was living with him. He gave her a good amount of money so that she could leave and get her own place, a new place, a place other than the place where he lived, his house that he owns. But mind you, I just want to say I did not break the two of them up. When Anthony was on the phone talking to Penelope on FaceTime, she would be in the background cussing and screaming and saying things about our daughter. So I tried to communicate with her respectfully and just said, hey, why don't you just kind of like give Aunt space? She knew about us, though. She knew about Penelope. She knew about me. She knew that Anthony was still in love with me. She knew that Anthony was never going to marry her. She knew that Anthony only wanted to ever be with me. She knew that. Like, he would be emotional about it and talking to her about it, and she'd be crying, and, you know, she knew. So, I tried to tell her, hey, here's how this could work, where it could go well for you. But I know Anthony, and I knew that he wasn't taking well to the way that she was responding to the entire situation. I think had she been supportive, it would have been a little bit different. But I also know Anthony and I, if we have never just like, okay, we're friends, and this is your girlfriend and this is my boyfriend. Like, if we're around each other, everyone's going to feel uncomfortable. Everyone's going to feel awkward. Like, the chemistry that we have is just, you can't, I don't know. It's like, you can't do nothing about it. So we wish her the best. We wish her well. Love, joy, peace, and happiness. Live, laugh, love. Amen. So Anthony and I just started talking. We never, like, especially in the beginning, we were not, and this was I guess maybe when we start talking and when I file for divorce, it's about maybe 6 weeks. However, Anthony and I just started talking about Penelope. I mean, we had 10 years of stuff to catch up on. I'm telling him and then she turned 4 and this happened, and then she turned 5 and she loved princesses and she had a princess birthday and she was in a car show and she did this and she did that. We were just talking. Anthony and I started out when we were 7 and 10. We were like best friends, like ride or die. literally started out, the story is actually so funny. This is not a plot thickener, but it started out like when I was 7. I actually had a crush on his brother. Like, me and his brother liked each other. And then the story is, we were working at this church event. It was like a tent meeting thing that we would do, where there would be like carnival foods and stuff like that. And so like one older kid and one younger kid got to work like each concession stand. And Anthony and I think we did popcorn, I think it was. And the whole time we're doing popcorn, he's telling me how his brother is like so lame and not cool, and he's so much cooler than his brother, and how I should like him and all this stuff. And up until that time, I had really just been Anthony's like wingman. Like, all the girls at the church liked Anthony, and so I would run around back and forth and like, oh my god, this girl likes you, this girl said to tell you this girl says to tell you this. And like, Anthony would tell me things to go back and tell the girls. And the whole time we're just becoming like best friends. Anthony, when I tell you we were like best friends and we grew up together, this man would be like, he would act like he wasn't a man at the time. So I'm 7, he's 10. Like, I'll never forget, I'm 8, he's 11, and we're sitting there talking. He's like, did you brush your teeth? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, what about your tongue? And I was like, what do you mean that I brush my tongue? He's like, did you brush your tongue? And I was like, why would I brush my tongue? He's like, you're supposed to brush your tongue. You see why it's white? He's like, you're supposed to brush it. And I was like, oh man, I didn't know that. Like, he literally taught me how to brush my teeth the right way. That's the kind of relationship that we had. That's the kind of relationship we still have. And we're just super close. So it started with us just talking. And it was like we were best friends again. He's telling me all the stuff he's going. He'd be like, I'm going out to this place. And we talked from November until we finally saw each other the first week of December. We just talked about Penelope, talked about life. I told him all the ratchet stuff I had done. And he was like, girl, you crazy. And I was like, yeah, I know. He's like, you ain't changed one bit. And I'm like, yeah, I know. This was all before, like, I had like apologized to him. And I was like, I'm not sorry for this other stuff that I'm doing like right now. But for the stuff I did to you, I'm sorry for. So it just kind of like turned into something. And by January, it was full on like, we want to do this again. Like, Anthony was encouraging me, like, once I got divorced, to like get in other relationships. And I was like, all right, bet, cool. Like, you find me somebody, hook me up. And then it was just like, you're the only one I want to be with. Okay, so Anthony and I were just talking, and I just so happened to mention, after I had the baby, him taking time off for work. Now, I just want to preface this. Anthony owns the company that he works at. He didn't always own it. He's worked there since he was a teenager. He stopped for a period of time. Then he went back. He bought into the company as a partner, and then he bought out the entire company. So he owns it. He's the boss. He signs the payroll checks. Okay? He has dozens of employees. I said, after I had the baby, something about him taking like maternity leave for like 2 weeks. And he's like, what? I can't take off work for 2 weeks. This man said he going back to work after a day or 2.
I said till you're out of the hospital.
No, you did not.
Yeah, I said out of the hospital.
No, you said a day or 2. I said I won't even be out the freaking hospital. I said if they letting me go from the hospital, then I should be good.
I feel like maybe I'm making a mistake.
Okay, you guys tell me. So the rules might not apply for your same situation if your partner or husband or whatever is an employee, okay? But I want you guys to remember that this man owns the company.
All right.
He doesn't do any plumbing.
Why are you trying to like?
He doesn't.
No, this is.
He works.
This is propaganda, and it's hurting my case.
No. I'm just saying. I want you guys to take this into consideration. So it's not like if he doesn't work, he's not going to get paid. If he doesn't, he has to sign payroll checks so other people can get paid. But on occasion, when he's been sick, he has people that work for him will bring the checks to him so he can sign it. No, I'm just saying, because you try to act like you ain't a boss. You're a boss. And you think you're going to pick me up from the hospital, drop me off at home, and then roll on back down to your office.
We know how I come home. We're early every day.
It don't matter.
I got an idea. I'll drop Penelope off to school, and I'll pop in for an hour or two, and then I'll come home and then maybe leave a little early before I go pick Penelope up from school, get some more afternoon time in, and then pick Penny up from school and then come home.
That after the 2 weeks, I will expect that while I still have an infant and I'm still bleeding. You know, I bleed for 6 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And if I don't have a C-section, then 6 weeks is the minimum time that I will need assistance and will be bleeding like everywhere.
We can procure you.
He wants to just hire me somebody. His suggestion for everything is just hire somebody.
Just to, take care of you when I'm not there.
Like, what if I need help wiping my butt?
They have people that can help you with that.
Okay, so I'm gonna put up a poll, and you guys let me know if I'm not gonna say unreasonable because I'm also emotional.
No, you're stacking the deck in your favor.
Hurt my feelings. These are my friends. So
this is a very unfair trial.
2 weeks is what
all your friends, and you get to throw shade. You get to cast
what are you
doubt.
Gonna say? Go ahead, say what you
I don't even want to say no, because you've already.
Tell me why you think you
if this was a court of law, you would have tainted every jury person, and we'd have to get a whole new. So you need to get a whole new Facebook or whatever.
Why do you think you're going to?
Hey, do you got any more than pepperonis?
You was hustling me and telling me I was taking too long.
I didn't even honk the horn.
You already ate some of my bacon today. All right.
Oh,
so, you think Anthony should give me 6 weeks?
No.
2 weeks, or drop me off from the hospital? Go ahead and answer in this poll.
It's not.
Think wisely. Not.
What?
His reasoning. Why? Wait. You said I don't need no help because all I'm gonna be doing is sleeping.
Yeah, and the baby just when it's brand new, just kind of just sits there, doesn't do anything.
Like that.
Yeah.
Anthony. Look how the baby is.
The baby's trying to like.
Show me again how the baby does it.
There's like a pillow in front of me. I'm on the pillow. Shut up.
You're a pressure of a baby. Oh my god, I'm gonna feel myself. That's why I don't need any help. Because do it again. Just do it one more time. No. Please, baby. You look. To the 31 people of the hundreds of people that have voted that said that Anthony should just drop me back off from the hospital, please tuck your jealousy back in. It's showing.
Oh my gosh.
Just because your man left you before you got to the hospital to have your baby doesn't mean that you have to be so nasty. Like, who would even pick that? Who would even do that? Who would even wish that for another woman? But you, 31 of you decided to. So as soon as I'm done eating my dinner, I'm going to go through and block every single one of you. Because that's just nasty.
Why did you put it in the option?
Because I like for people to expose themselves. Expose yourself. I do stuff like that every now and again. Expose yourself. Say something nasty so that I can have a reason to block you. I haven't blocked anyone today, but now I have 31 new people to block. Because that's just like, ew. That's like wishing someone gets left at the altar. Like, who wishes that someone just gets dropped off from the hospital? Like, you're just disgusting. Like, do you even support women?
My God.
Yuck.